If you had the chance to speak to any human being, dead or alive, and ask them about your challenges, who would that be? Someone ancient? Your favorite director? A scientific mastermind? Or would you talk to someone before he went crazy? Well, in my case, the answer is pretty simple. It will be the author of that book. So, well, I did what every reasonable person who wanted to meet Rick Rubin would do. I scraped together all my money, traveled all the way to California to meet him in his Shangri-La studio, and spoke to him every day for the last 2 weeks. Only that this isn't the real Rick Rubin, and this isn't the real me. But I did talk to him, only to a digital version of him, because I used the same AI that I used to create this image to impersonate Rick Rubin and be my mentor for the past 2 weeks. And the results were kind of mind-blowing. So much so that a couple of days ago I was sitting at this very desk with tears in my eyes because I had such an incredible revelation. But while using an AI chatbot to be your mentor can be great, it also comes with a couple of risks, and I want to talk about all that in this video. But let's start at the beginning. I am a freelance creator and coach and live and work in Munich in Germany. And this is my space. Let me show you around. This is my office. Over here is my gym. And over here is another production space where I've optimized the acoustics. So I can use this for recordings with customers. But as you can see, it's completely empty. There is nobody here other than me, most days. And so like most freelance creators, I don't have a team that I regularly speak to. I don't have any colleagues. I do most of the work by myself. And while I enjoy being by myself when I have to focus on my work, sometimes I'm missing like a partner who can give me feedback. Somebody who's like a witness who reminds you that what you're doing actually has value. Now this is where Rick Rubin enters the equation. Because a couple of years ago I came across his work and I realized that what he was doing meant something really special to me. Now if you don't know Rick Rubin, I'm not going to give you a full bio, and since you've clicked on that video I think you probably know him. If you don't, he's a very well-known music producer who's been active in the space for a couple of decades, working with the greatest of the greats, and if you want to know more, you know where you'll find out more. And not only his work resonated with me, but especially the way that he treated people and the way that he treated people in his studio. And about at that time, I read an idea online. Somebody saying that he used ChatGPT to impersonate his mentor. And then I thought, maybe I should try that with Rick Rubin. So then I described a challenge that I was facing to ChatGPT and asked it to reply to me as if it were Rick Rubin. The first reply I got was staggering already, because it described to me what my work was in words that maybe Rick Rubin could have used. You're a synthesizer. You take seemingly unrelated concepts and bring them together in a way that creates something new. Your work blends education, storytelling, creative communication, and human behavior, but at the core, what you're really doing is helping people see differently. And in my head, of course, when I was reading this, those sentences were spoken by Rick Rubin, simply because I asked ChatGPT to reply to me as if it were Rick Rubin, and having his voice in my head for a couple of years, it was very easy for me to imagine that it was actually him talking to me. And I didn't only do that just once, but I did it for almost every day in the next days. And even though I knew I was just speaking to a machine, it seemed plausible for my brain that I was actually talking to Rick Rubin, which was really fascinating. And ChatGPT even did one thing to make the conversation seem more realistic, because it added some scenic elements, like Rick Rubin walks into your dojo barefoot, sits down calmly, and doesn't speak for a while. Then he looks at you, saying, which was like, okay, now my brain also gets an image how this interaction could look like. And that was really crazy. And at first it felt a bit ridiculous because, well, I'm talking to ChatGPT and asking it to be Rick Rubin. But the more questions I asked, the more those conversations were ongoing, the more also the results impacted me, because I felt like, okay, this is something that he could have actually said. And I think now would be a good time to talk about the risks. And for that, I'd really like to take a moment, sit down and talk about this properly. Because what should be the goal of any kind of coaching and mentoring for it to be really sustainable and effective? And in fact, that is something that was already known to the Stoics. In fact, it wasn't Aristotle, but this guy, Epictetus. And you can view Epictetus like an ancient life coach. He lived 2000 years ago and he was like a teacher. So people went to him and asked him what to do with their lives, really. A bit like how I'm using Rick Rubin at the moment. And one day he was asked by one of his pupils, just tell me what to do. I don't want to be taught anything, just tell me what I should do. And here is where the risk lies. Because already 2000 years ago, Epictetus said, look, this is a ridiculous question. This is a very dangerous request, because if you come to me and I tell you what to do, well, if life takes you off script and something unexpected happens, well, then you come to me again and you want advice from me again. And then maybe you'll be successful or maybe you'll reach your goal. But if you don't or something changes, then you'll come to me again and again and again. And that's the problem and that's the risk. And that's what I think the ultimate goal of any kind of mentoring and coaching should try and avoid. It should try and avoid that dependency. And this is also the risk that I see with people overusing artificial intelligence for anything, not just for being their mentor and somebody you can talk to, but also to help you with almost anything in life. So I think it can be very beneficial to use an artificial intelligence to impersonate your idol and your mentor to help you uncover hidden potential, because that's what it's about. It should help you uncover something that you maybe didn't see before or you weren't aware before. And if you use it as a tool to gain self-awareness, then of course it makes sense to do so. If, however, on the other end, you use it to be more dependent on an external entity, you will maybe end up needing that external validation and gratification and justification for almost anything you do. So yes, I recommend you use ChatGPT to impersonate any of the people that you think would be valuable talking to, but bear in mind that you should use this to uncover something that's already in you and then act upon it. That's the most important point. That's also something that I'm trying to work on with people here in the Creator Dojo. Because whatever you're trying to do, if you're trying to progress in video creation, weightlifting, or business, whatever it is, anything at all, you have to do the thing. You have to practice. And of course, you can use an external entity to give you that extra push or maybe give you some inspiration. But in the end, you have to do it yourself. And for me, talking to the digital version of Rick Rubin did indeed help. And I'm pretty sure I'll do it again. And who knows, maybe one day I'll even get to talk to the real Rick Rubin.